And we're now joined by my colleague Janelle Dumalaun, who is in Davos following the events there. And you were surely also following Donald Trump's speech. Apart from praising the U.S. economy, as could be expected, Trump also said that the U.S. will join the initiative to plant 1 trillion trees. That, of course, in tune with the forum's focus on sustainability. How did this speech go down?
Well, the speech in general was received by quite an underwhelmed audience. There were quite a few ha moments. There are quite a few laughs of derision. Now, in terms of this, now I'm sorry, I've got quite some feedback going on here. But in terms of the speech, it was quite lacking in terms of environmental punch. That announcement about planting 1 trillion trees actually came towards the end of the speech. It was more of a nod to the audience, and people really didn't know what to make of it. This is of course not a genuine commitment to environmental policy. In fact, when he was addressing reporters in a media gaggle ahead of his speech, he said that the environment was actually in a good state already. The whole point of this forum, of course, is for sustainability. That means he might have gotten his facts wrong there, but that's Donald Trump for you.
All right. Well, Janelle, obviously we know that the US president was not attending last year's forum in Davos, and that is where China somewhat took center stage, especially also promoting how important it is to tackle climate change and sustainability. Now Trump is back. Has he managed to convince the participants that the US is again in pole position?
I'm not sure it was the participants of the forum that he was really trying to convince there, Monica. In fact, his whole speech was designed a bit like a campaign rally-style speech, really more aimed towards U.S. voters who are going to vote in the upcoming elections, and perhaps more as a distraction for the upcoming impeachment proceedings. But in terms of the U.S. and China, you know, the argument that he was trying to make there, and even bringing China up, was that the responsibility of nation states are, first of all, to their citizens. So he said, for example, that he's for the U.S. and the leaders of China are, of course, for China. But the U.S. and China, they love each other because they understand each other in that way.
All right, Janelle Dumalaun there reporting from ice-cold Davos, as I can tell. Thank you so much. And now to some of the other global business stories making news. Global ride-hailing and delivery firm Uber has sold its Uber Eats business in India to a local competitor as part of a renewed push for profit. Uber said it would trade its Uber Eats network of restaurants, couriers and customers in exchange for 10% of rival Zomato's capital. Tesla has denied some of its electric cars accelerate unintentionally. The U.S. road safety regulator has been looking into complaints to see if they warrant a formal investigation. The company says the claims were sparked by a short seller seeking financial gain. France and the US have agreed to suspend tit-for-tat tax hikes. The White House has argued that a French digital levy will unfairly target American firms and planned to impose retaliatory tariffs on luxury goods from France. Presidents Trump and Macron have now agreed to continue negotiations until the end of the year. And CEO of Google owner Alphabet, Sundar Pichai, says artificial intelligence must be regulated, but any new rules must balance the potential harms of technology like facial recognition with the opportunities they offer. He was speaking in Brussels days before the European Commission is due to publish proposals on AI. That's your business update. Thanks for watching.
it hurts to laugh. Where I come from, people make fun about their own social, economic, and political problems. In Mozambique, we say that you have to laugh so you don't cry. It's how people cope with their daily problems. As a journalist, I often talk about these topics, and that binds me to my fellow countrymen. I like to start my day by checking out all those jokes, finding out what people are talking about, what is moving them. My father taught me how to ask uncomfortable questions about my country and about the world. That is what I keep doing to this day. My name is Nadia Souf and I work at DW.
This is DW News, live from Berlin. The world's wealthy and powerful gather in the Swiss Alps for the 50th World Economic Forum. President Donald Trump opens the gathering of the world's business and political elite by boasting about the U.S. economy, saying America is winning like never before. But teenage activist Greta Thunberg says leaders like Trump are failing to avert a climate catastrophe. Also, Trump on trial. The U.S. president may be away in Davos, but on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are debating.
Top Startup has been one of the best things that ever happened to my life. Not the best.
My name is Modulaman Fati, founder, farm manager, ML Poultry. Before Top Startup 2018, this used to be my poultry house with about 200 chickens. And today, ML Poultry has just built a new farm with a production capacity of up to 4,000 chickens.
I'm Ibu Lawrence Mendy. I'm the CEO and the founder of Camecox. The Top Startup, we're able to register the company in Ghana as a limited, let's Ride Africa Ghana Limited.
I urge every single young entrepreneur out there to give it a try. It's a life-changing experience.
US-based Gambian professor informed the TRC that the civil service was governed on tribal lines. Former President Jammeh's victim vows physically attack him anytime he returns home. Business startups in Nigeria are now receiving repayable loans from commercial banks. These and more coming on The World Today. It is 1700 GMT here in our studios in Banjul. You are watching The World Today on Africa TV. I am Amadou Kante, and now the news in details. In his analysis on Jammeh's-led government, Professor Abdullah Sen said the former leader ensured that civil service positions were seared along tribal lines. Sen, who began his testimony before the TRC on Monday, was tasked to explain events leading to the July 1994 coup and the governance of the country thereafter leading to a state of dictatorship. More details on that in this report with Julden Jai.
United Nations-based Gambian professor on Tuesday blamed former President Yahya Jammeh for instituting a dividing tribal representation in the Gambia civil and security services since coming into power in 1994. In his analysis, Abdullah Sen suggested that the exiled former president empowered and positioned his Jola relatives on senior government positions in what he called a hit back on the historical discrimination against the ethnicity in the Gambia. Professor Sen told the commission that as soon as Jammeh took the mantle of leadership, he took an affirmative action by giving opportunity to groups that have been traditionally and historically discriminated against.
Jolas have historically been marginalized, not having the same opportunity as others. In addition to the infrastructure he did or he constructed, Jammeh also undertook a very positive policy toward the Jola, promotions. In fact, the Jolanization of the civil service. Increasingly, he promoted Jolas. He sent many Jolas for further studies. Today, you will find a lot of Jolas in the security sector in particular, commanding very high positions.
The Jammeh Jolanization policy, in the view of Abdullah Sen, was excessive enough to victimize the Mandinka community in the country.
Mandinkas in general suffered immeasurably, primarily because of their ethnic and cultural identity. Jammeh consistently hurled insults at his arch political rival. Okay, Honorable Ousainou Darboe, calling him a drunkard and branding Mandinkas unpatriotic.
Sen had appeared before the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission to share authoritative context on events leading to the July 1994 military takeover by Yahya Jammeh, as well as the governance of the country thereafter leading to a state of dictatorship. For iAfrica News, I am Julden Jai.
There on the TRC proceedings, we head to Nigeria, where the Nigerian commercial banks have ventured into lending cheap loans to small and medium enterprises to help them stand on their right toes. The move was in response to the country's central bank policy that rolled out a conducive loan deposit ratio for banks in 2019. More details of that in this report.
Perhaps nothing catches the New Deal in the Nigerian banking industry than this giant billboard standing on a very strategic point in Lagos. SMEs have suddenly become the darling of commercial banks since the central bank raised their loan-to-deposit ratio to 65% and assigned a weight of 150% with respect to lending to small and medium enterprises, retail and mortgage.
There is currently a lot of credit going to the system. We've also seen a moderation in interest rate, in fact, the crashing of interest rates. Today we are seeing banks deposit rates in the number of 2.56%. We've also seen a moderation in lending rates.
Among the SMEs who have benefited from the new loan regime is Tuteria, an e-learning startup where Kende Ishe is a finance manager.
Sometime last year, we discovered that as a growing company, the space where we were was a little too small for the number of staff that we had, and we decided, oh, we have to get a bigger space, something more comfortable. So we reached out to our bank account manager and we said, oh, okay, we are aware of this directive from CBN. Can you let us know how we can benefit? And then he got back to us and said, oh, this is the amount that you guys, that your company really can take at this time. And in about a week, our accounts were credited. They just sent us the payment plan and all of that. It was really little.
Before the new CBN LDR policy, it would have been practically impossible for small startups like Tuteria to get a loan from a bank.
But of course, we know that the SMEs brought a lot of risk to the banking system, and that's why the banks are reluctant to lend to them. But the Central Bank trying to create incentives to make the banks lend to them. When the figures are out, we will see what additional volume of credit went to the SMEs. But the incentives are there for the banks to lend to the SMEs.
At some point, the central bank contemplated a further increase in the LDR to 70% to further drive more credit into the system and onto the hands of SMEs. But it stayed action on that at the moment, saying it had noticed a remarkable increase in the size of gross credit by deposit money banks to customers.
Should the central bank increase it to 70%, it could have unintended consequences. To the extent that the banks begin to look for very weak credit customers to lend to, and that could lead to an upswing in the number of loans.
For now, SMEs in the countries are enjoying some breath of fresh air as far as bank loans go. Their chances of securing low-interest loans are at their highest than ever. And like the message on this billboard demonstrates, quite a number of them are rushing to the banks, finding the offering on the table very irresistible.
From that report there in Nigeria, we come back home and talk matters of Jammeh victims, because victims of the former President Yahya Jammeh are no longer keeping their pains inwards, since supporters of ex-President beam to demand for his return from exile. One of the victims vowed to take on Jammeh physically if they ever meet on a clear field. The Victim Center held a press conference that sought emotional presentation of victims on human rights violations under the rule of the former president. Binda Baji has more details in this report.
A victim of former Gambian President Yahya Jammeh's regime has sworn to attack Mr. Jammeh anytime he returns to the country from Equatorial Guinea, where he has been in exile since he lost the 2016 elections. Kafubayo alleged that he was captured alongside the then youth leader of the United Democratic Party, Solo Sandeng, and subjected to torture with a hammer on his mouth until he lost 3 of his lower teeth. Mr. Sandeng later died in custody as a result of the inhuman treatment by Mr. Jammeh's most brutal killers. During a press conference by Gambia Center for Victims of Human Rights Violations on Monday, Mr. Bayo said they as victims may be weak, but swore if Yahya Jammeh comes back, they will physically attack him.
One time he come be fan and quite haribi. Ali nyol kat bante malala kumo al banke alati. Hear me for. Yambulo ken hear me for. Definitely you be nyati rat your system. Because you quite been told for until kabiri wo uraro yen terrible. The man fenka record ko to go suto before so mo 12 o'clock. Another nyaye. Sai ye pira sinkol kana wuli. E ka foko woya jamme naja. I feel that. E kan tol mo. Liba tambla te fango dalante kiyama no. Liba tambla dale be boku le ko mo be fan. Still now say ko ya jamme naja. Tol so no lalba. Ormana tol be fala bari. Na na tol be fala bari be attack. Bila wallahi talla.
In an emotional moment, one Aissatou Damfa also alleged that her husband was poisoned while in jail at the state central prison for opposing Mr. Jammeh.
When we are suffer, that's the feeling of all the victims.
We don't want to see Yahya Jammeh in this country anymore. We don't want to see him. He has no right to come back. He killed our husbands. Since 1994 up to date, we are tired. We are suffer. We don't want to see Yahya Jammeh anymore in this country. Those who are saying that
Last week, the Victim Center said in a statement that if former President Jammeh is allowed to return to the Gambia without being arrested or charged, it will be a failure on the government to uphold its duty to the victims. For iAfrica News, I am Binta Baji.
From that report there by Binta Baji, we will now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the stories. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Amisana, founder and owner of Her Apparel, a mother's clothing brand. Tough Startup has been one of the best things that ever happened to my life, if not the best.
My name is Modulaman Fati, founder, farm manager, ML Poultry. Before Tough Startup 2018, this used to be my poultry house with about 200 chickens. And today, ML Poultry has just built a new farm with a production capacity of up to 4,000 chickens.
I'm Ivo Lawrence Mendy. I'm the CEO and the founder of Cameco. The Tough Startup, we're able to register the company in Ghana as a limited, let's Ride Africa Ghana Limited.
I urge every single young entrepreneur out there to give it a try. It's a life-changing experience.
Welcome back. You are watching The World Today on Africa TV, and now to the rest of the stories. And we head to Libya, where Libyans continue to live in fear for their lives as political and security crises keep escalating. Thousands have fled across the border into Tunisia as forces from different Middle Eastern countries battle to protect the Libyans. Government against groups loyal to Khalifa Haftar, the Libyan's political unrest began since the execution of its former leader Mohamed Gaddafi during the NATO invasion 8 years ago. Details of that in this report.
Many Libyans will fear for their life, family and property. They reside in Tunisian border regions like Benguerden and Tatawin, where they have all the commodities and the guarantee of security.
The situation is still unstable in some Libyan cities, especially around Tripoli. The ceasefire is only on paper but not on the ground. We are waiting for the end of the war to return home.
Experts in Libyan affairs assert that the Libyans who chose to cross the border into Libya live in towns and cities where the security situation is stable. However, the majority are skeptical.
The war is in Libya and is limited to some areas while the rest of the country is safe. However, the escalation could take place at any time. That is why people either do not dare to leave their towns or, on the contrary, to return home.
Security analysts maintain that any ceasefire in Libya will not last, as rival forces continue to accuse each other of breaches.
The ceasefire is fragile because the main condition of the government of national accord is that Haftar returns to his...
In anticipation of the development of the crisis in Libya, Tunisian authorities are actively preparing for the return of Tunisians to their country. The governors of the border regions of Benguerden and Tatawin assert that the movement of Libyan trucks and civilians has resumed normally in the two directions. Many ambulances have transported Libyan casualties to the cities of Tunis, Sfax and Sousse during the ceasefire.
From that report in Libya, we come back home and talk matters of the TRC again, because in a bid to resonate public hearing, the United Nations Development Programme has given the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission mobility and communication materials worth more than $1 million. Chiefly, the community van through Chairman Lamin Sisse will support the Commission in its outreach engagements on the second year of the hearings. Binta Sisse has more details in this report.
Transportation has been a seemingly unending challenge in the Gambia across all sectors and principalities, including the country's Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, TRC, that was instituted in 2017 to investigate human rights violations committed during former President Yahya Jammeh's regime. In a bid to remedy transport challenges at the Truth-Seeking Commission, the United Nations system in the Gambia Monday donated a 15-seater van, a public address system and 2 friendly summary booklets of the Commission's Act and the portraits of positive change. The handing over was held at the TRC headquarters at the Dunks Hotel in Kololi, where the UNDP resident coordinator Aissata D presented the donated equipments to the head of the Commission, Dr. Lamin Cisse. Resident Coordinator D said the gesture is meant to ease mobility and communication challenges of the Commission. The UNDP boss added that they are tirelessly working to lend a hand to the government. UNDP and Office of the High Commission on Human Rights donated office equipment worth $15 million to the Ministry of Justice, and today they are handing over equipment worth $8 million to the TRC. Madam D asserted that the support will increase the TRC's ability to reach out to the hard-to-reach parts of the country, to increase awareness on public hearings in which all citizens, including children, can be part of the country's transitional justice.
We are convened today to hand over a 15-seat committee bus to address system and public address system and publication was $8 million to the TRC. This is following the visit we held a few months ago when we came here, and it's really a pleasure to make it a reality. Combined to this item shall increase the TRC ability to reach out to the most hard and part of the country and ease the transmission of its public hearings.
She said since May 2015, UNDP has been providing technical material and advisory support to the government of the Gambia. The donation of the equipment is timely and important as the Commission enters its second year of operation. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Maritambedu, commended the UNDP and sister agencies for their support since the commencement of the TRC and the worthwhile steps they have been taking in the country. The Commission's chairperson, Dr. Lamin Cisse, thanked UNDP coordinator for their kind gesture, saying that the items will be of great use to the TRC.
Minister, you have been supporting us morally, financially as well, and all kinds of support that anybody would want in a situation like this. You have been giving that to Madras unfailingly. And resident coordinator, I said, you have been fantastic as well. Your staff, all of you, been behind us throughout our exercises.
The Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission was established in July 2017 to investigate the human rights violations committed during the 22-year rule of the former President Yahya Jammeh. For iAfrican News, I am Binta Cisse.
Thank you, Binta. And from her report there, we head to South Africa, where a 6-month amnesty for the surrender of arms that are neither on warranties or on license. Over 2,000 weapons has been surrendered to various police stations since the declaration of the amnesty period in the country. Details of that in this report.
The amnesty is part of government's plan to tackle the accumulation of firearms in South African communities and to deal decisively with the excess of illegal firearms. While it's unclear how many illegal guns there are in South Africa, lobby group Gun Free SA estimates that there are at least 4.5 legal weapons in this country, and 37 of those are lost or stolen every day. The firearm amnesty period started on the 1st of December 2019. It will run until the end of May.
To say that the fire amnesty period has kicked off on a good note would be an understatement. In less than 50 days since the firearms amnesty period commenced, a total of 2,266 firearms have been surrendered to various police stations across all provinces.
A Johannesburg arms dealer took up the call by the South African Police Service to surrender unwanted or unlicensed firearms. Chris van der Berg handed over his firearms and ammunition as he says they're outdated and have no commercial value, but still deadly.
I want to pause and thank all those South Africans and Mr. van der Berg here to say this gives the dent to the crime and this gives the dent to the criminal activities out there.
This is the fourth such amnesty since 1994. The South African Police Service is strengthening its capacity to recover unlawful weapons. Ballistic tests are conducted on all surrendered firearms to check if they were used in any crime.
Firearms remain the enemy of our society, and we as SEPs must do all in our power to protect communities from these illegal acquired weapons. The declaration of this amnesty period is in the interest of the public, and I believe it will make a dent in dealing decisively with the access of illegal firearms and wanted firearms that end up in the wrong hands.
The minister believes that the amnesty period is sufficient time for South Africans to hand over their illegal firearms.
Well, viewers, that report there in South Africa bring this news bulletin to an end. But for more on these stories and more, you can also log on our website on africa.tv. Thank you very much for the pleasure of your company. Once again, I am Amadou Kante, and bye for now.